to The Real Study with your hosts, Mr. Snidbits,
Welcome back to The Real Study.
Black Girl Marvel,
But I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Mr. Marvelite,
not knowing anything about the film.
all the movie things,
And like I was locked in right away.
the pre-review with Super Gummy Guru,
Preview.
and me, the Real Study movie voice guy. Let's go to the poster wall.
Good evening and welcome to The Real Study Season 1, Episode 12. We are here with, as always, Black Girl Marvel, Mr. Marvelite, and all the movie things. And I am Mr. Snidbits, and we are here to talk about movies. Tonight we are talking about The Brass Teapot. I think that's a 2010, more indie type film. No, it's 2015. Mr. Right, and then 8-Bit Christmas. And we will be discussing The Matrix here in a couple of weeks. How are you guys doing as we move over to the drive-in?
Doing good.
Yeah, doing good.
Yeah.
I think we're all a little tired.
I
Yeah.
think so too. Well, why don't we just get right into it? Since we're all tired and we were here to talk about movies, it's Christmas time. People are getting crazy out there. We're 2 weeks away from Christmas. We're 14 days out. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. We are doing a little bit of Christmas movie tonight, but next week we were going to have a special guest. We're going to postpone that special guest for another week, and now we're going to be doing a Christmas movie episode, and we're going to all bring our favorite Christmas movie to review. So you'll get 4 movies next week, and we will be talking about those. So we'll announce those later. Why don't we move right into The Brass Teapot? And I would love to hear what Black Girl Marvel has to say about this, because she said something pretty interesting in our Discord, and I just want to kind of parse out what she was. You were like you made mention, so it caught my attention. So, what was your initial impression of The Brass Teapot?
Okay, so I just want to say my birthday is in 18 days. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
The Brass Teapot was nuts. It was. I felt like in a really good way though, because didn't know what I was getting myself in for because of the title, and then like the title was like seemed very like, I don't know, regal in a way. When I heard the title, I was like, oh, okay, Brass Teapot,
Right.
maybe it's like a thing. And then I saw the 2 actors, and I was like, this ain't British. And I was just like very interesting and in a weird comedy. But when I got down to the gist of it, I was like, this is like a Bonnie and Clyde for a new generation, if you really look at it, because like what they do, it's like they might not rob people and all that kind of stuff, but they doing stuff for money. You know, it's very Bonnie and Clyde-ish. They was like very in it together. I thought it was very funny. I thought it had funny moments. I love the idea of this teapot that gives you money for your pain, and then you not realizing how much the word pain spans, right? Because it's not just physical pain, it's emotional pain, it's pain to others. Like pain is so like broad that I don't think people realize how broad it is, because we just kind of like live with it every day. And then the teapot itself is just like sadistic, because you have to up your pain every time.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
you can't do the same thing for the same amount of money, you know? And I thought that was just a very interesting concept to have like a magical teapot, because it was giving me Aladdin a little bit, like, like a lamp type of deal, but it's with a teapot instead. So it was it was good to see, and it was funny to see. What's his name? What's the guy's name? The guy that like that lived in the trailer park with his girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
The actor? Oh yeah. Okay.
The actor Billy Magnuson. But I forget what he was in. I forget what he was in that makes me laugh. But he's. I just never imagined to see him in that type of role. That was funny.
Yeah.
So
what's funny is, I loved it. I was like, I'd never seen it before. I had no idea I totally went in this movie blind, and yeah, so I did not know what to expect. and I love Juno Temple. So it's interesting to see her in this, and like so used to that. She has that very strong accent, from Ted Lasso, and she's great in that, and she was really great in this. Um, what was really surprising too was like all the great cast that kept popping up. I mean, just like
Yeah.
in these little roles too, like, and the thing that caught my attention was, like we got Billy in it, Billy Magnuson, but also Kristen Milotti, and they were both
Yeah.
in this HBO Max series together. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was really great. So it was funny just to see her. She's like literally her head just pops out of the door there, near the end of the movie, and
So
she's amazing.
she's one of the most brilliant actresses that gets no
Yeah,
play,
she's
and it drives me nuts
she's
because her
great.
range is wildly big. Like
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
amazing. She's
just
really
seeing her
amazing.
from How I Met Your Mother, Wolf of Wall Street to this
Yeah.
to just a couple of the roles I've seen. Like
Yeah, in Palm
dude,
Springs. Yeah,
she's got some
yeah, Palm
amazing
Springs was great.
range.
Yeah,
Mr. Marvel.
if you haven't seen that show, the show
Oh,
is
yeah,
great.
She's in an Amazon Prime series, Modern Love, and her she's one of
Yeah.
the segments. She's amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
I will have to take a
One of
look.
my favorites.
If
Yep.
with her,
Yeah.
I'll
Oh,
check
yeah,
it out
her
even if it's
Modern Love
TV.
one,
So
too. That's great.
I'll definitely look.
Yeah.
Mr. Marmalade, what was your impression of the Brass Teapot?
It was a lot of fun. In fact, I will say this, and I hope this doesn't dissuade anybody, but like I did not remember this film until I started to go back and watch it. I actually felt like I was going to be like down to the line and not being able to finish this film for the show. And then I turned it on and I was like, oh, I remember this. And so for me, it was a little bit forgettable because it kind of gave me that whole monkey's paw type feel where like there's the wishes granted with consequence. And then the second thing that popped in my head after I went through was they're really going at the Hasidic Jews and like this Jewish like prophecy of a magical teapot. Like I wonder what people were, what the response from the Jewish community was. And I tried to look it up online. There was nothing. So either, at this point they don't care anymore.
Maybe they didn't care. Yeah.
But it's like,
I
because
mean,
like
they stole the pot from Hitler, like so that's a positive thing, I think.
right, but the pot, I mean, like if you remember the intro, the pot had been through like all of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it was in there with some of Da Vinci's pieces, and like it was just like all of these ancient like images depicted this pot, and I'm like, okay, I know I've gone back and these things were these pictures like they did not have a pot in them. Now I want to go back and look, but it was like they did a good job trying to like give it this context in this world. It did kind of bother me a little bit, took me a little bit out of it because I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, they're making up something. Like I get if they take like some actual like images from the past that had pots in them and say, oh, that was what that was. But then they also made images that were just completely like, were doctored and stuff. So, if you don't like fake news, then you might be upset a bit about that. But I mean, honestly, for me, it was funny. It was off the wall. I mean, you go to return the pot that gives you money, and of course it's closed down. So what's the next thing you're going to do? You want to go to the Antique Roadshow. It's just
That
it
threw
didn't
me.
take itself seriously, but it was funny
Yeah,
how
it
to
did
do
seem
that.
kind
Like,
of out of place a little bit, but
yeah, and it's like, and of course, for me, I'm sitting there thinking nobody watches the Antique Roadshow, but the Hasidic Jews did,
but those Jews
and
And so did Dr. Ling.
yeah, Dr. Ling
right.
was looking for it,
Yeah.
and so it's like,
But it makes
okay,
sense for Dr. Ling to watch it though.
yeah,
Yeah, he's looking for. Yeah, he scours.
Probably always looking.
That
Yeah,
road.
exactly. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So it was
yeah.
definitely off the wall in my opinion. So I like that part of it.
So the guy that plays the lead, Michael Angarano, he's the kid from.
Will and Grace.
No, there's another thing he was in.
Sky High.
Yes,
High.
but he was
And
also
we
in the
did
Forbidden Kingdom
as well.
Yes, he was
Yeah,
in the
he's
Forbidden Kingdom. And I was
Mhm.
like, this kid is not memorable because he's definitely a different actor. Like I felt like a different actor was in the it was not him. I don't know. So maybe that's
totally.
good. He's done a good job, but still threw me off to know that we've now reviewed 2 movies with this kid and I barely know who he
I like
is.
him. I like him. So I saw he was in it. I was like, oh, okay, I might enjoy this, and then I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought he was great in this. Yeah.
Now,
and
again,
it was definitely different from Sky High as well.
Right.
I mean, like
he
got past that
range.
like that kid phase.
He has range, but I just don't know him well enough, and I'm like, he keeps popping up.
Totally.
This is interesting. So makes me want to look a little further. This film was one that my wife actually did redeem and suggested, and she's been bugging me about it for a few months. Not a long time, but for a few months. And so she was like, this will be my way to get him to watch it. So she redeemed it, and we sat down and watched it together, and she did the same thing I do when somebody's watching a movie that I've seen that they haven't seen, and I just sit there and stare at them the whole time, right? And so she watched me the whole time, like, what do you think? What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
This series of films for me this week, I had more technical issues with than anything else, and there were plot points in this film that just kind of stood out to me, like, why? What? So one of them was the Antique Roadshow. There needed to be a scene between him finding all that out and then going to the roadshow. Like, show us, get him on the road. Show us, like, don't just like we assume he went like magically. It was really weird. And then
I almost thought it was like a dream or something in a way. Like it was like it didn't seem like it was actually part of the
he was
actual
thinking
plot,
about going.
but I was like,
that's what it felt like to me.
Exactly.
It was a consideration.
Like was,
and then all of a sudden he did
but
go.
Wasn't there a scene where they were like, we're not that far from something? And
they did mention it, like, absolutely. A little earlier in the film, they mentioned if we need to go to Antique Roadshow, we could.
Right there, kind of like threw that out there as like he's going to show up eventually.
Right. The other one that stood out to me as a really strange scene that just seemed pointless. I mean, it was necessary, but they could have found a better way to get this across. Was when they went back to Dingleberry's trailer to confront him about the fact that she had given him a BJ, right? And so the kid brings a saw and an attitude, right?
Yeah.
And the whole point of that scene is so that the landlord can find out. Well, Lady Crossheart, thank you for the host. The whole point was so that he could go find out that the teapot creates money. Like, he needed to see that. So that whole scene was for that moment. And I feel like other than that, there was no reason for them to go there, because like he was angry but lost and then like walked away with, humiliated. I don't know. It didn't work for me. Other than that, I think there was pretty good flow through. I liked that it got to the point where it was hard for you to earn money. So you were getting nickels and dimes for, burning yourself. But I did like that they figured out how to give other people pain. I just wish they hadn't raked each other over the coals so hard.
Man,
emotionally.
Man,
that scene killed me. I was just like,
I mean, I thought it was kind of funny too, like in the kitchen, like just money kept shooting out of the pot like the whole time because he's so hurt.
Right.
Like, it's like, oh man, I mean, I feel like it's a really good visual way to represent an internal kind of thing, it's like
internal pain is more painful than physical pain.
That
because
too.
It came in waves, like a little money would shoot up, and then when he got up, like more money would shoot up.
Just,
barely speaking, so.
And then you saw like all over the table, and like, it was so good. It felt like a really long episode of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen The Box? Richard Kelly's Box?
Yeah.
No.
So The Box is a similar kind of concept where a stranger comes to your door. He says, if you push this button on this box, someone in the world will die, but you will become X dollars richer. And it's the whole premise of this. It's the same concept.
The guy who played Doku was in the movie. I remember this film.
It's a Richard. It's got a Richard
got
Kelly
Marsden.
production.
It's got James Marsden, doesn't it?
I'll have to look real quick, but it definitely has Naomi Watts as the lead.
What's
Box.
the name of it?
The Box. Wait, where?
Box.
It's not Box. It's The Box.
Was it Jason Bateman? I thought it was Jason Bateman.
I think it might be Marsden. I think he's right. Yep. Cameron Diaz. I was wrong. Cameron Diaz, James Marsden, Frank Langella, and it is.
And this is a short story based off of the short story Button from Richard Matheson. And if you don't know Richard Matheson, that is the guy who did I Am Legend, like the book series.
The I Am Omega story.
Right. Well, it was I Am Legend, and then it became Omega Man, and then we got the I Am Legend with Will Smith, where they were more zombies than vampires. But
The Box is a very similar story. This one's less funny, much darker. Richard Kelly, if you don't know, did Domino, I can't talk today. Donnie Darko, and a few other more strange films. He's definitely Southland Tales, very cerebral. So do walk into it with that in mind, but it is a good James Marsden role. He plays a serious character in this.
It's a very good role.
It is. That being
said,
funny,
we were just talking about James Marsden before.
Yeah. Right? Just before the show. The Brass Teapot, though, like, my wife tried to explain the violence because we debated on whether to watch this in front of the 3-year-old because she doesn't really pay attention. So, like, if she's not watching, if she does happen to see something, do I worry? I don't care about language because I'm dirtier mouth than any of the movies I watch. but she explained it to be as violent as Fight Club. After watching it, I think maybe she overestimated the violence, but still, definitely a decent amount of violence in this film, and well done violence. I think that some of those special effects were good. I did think that anyway, when she took him up I thought that was an interesting scene because I was like, couldn't that have gone both ways? It would be painful for both parties. Couldn't they have just? You guys know what I'm talking about when she gave him the
Yeah.
I'm trying not to say.
No, but honestly, it couldn't have because as we saw, he's very gentle.
And he would have taken his
he
time
was the
and
softer
sweet
of the
about
two.
it. Yeah, that's a good
He's
point.
a very soft-headed person, and I loved her descent though. I love the descent of her character. Like it gets warmed, and she's like, I'm fine. I'm a great person, and then she just slowly becomes more and more terrible. And he's just like,
it was like she was so more prone for it. I mean, like she even stole the pot just because of how it looked. Like there was no like logic from where she's trying to get a job to like, oh, there's a pot. Let's go ahead and steal it. But yeah.
She even went into the library and tore the pages out, like lied to her boyfriend or her husband. Sorry, it was her husband. Which it felt much more like boyfriend girlfriend to me. I don't know why they were married in the movie. I don't know. They didn't feel like a married couple to me, but that's just me. I didn't like that it took her so easily, but then it gave her back so easily. I don't know. She didn't seem as drawn to it as maybe the beginning made us believe she would be. I don't know. The movie started to kind of unravel towards the end. I couldn't figure out what kind of ending it wanted. I struggle with those kinds of endings where I'm like, okay, here's a perfect ending. Oh, they're still going. Okay, here's another. Oh, they're still going.
I did feel like it was long. I found myself going, I don't know. I blinked and was like, "This still on?" Oh, okay. And I just sat there and I watched the rest of it. It did, and I'm not saying that it's a bad film, but it was just like for what the plot was and the scenes that we saw. It's like, okay, we get it. They doing horrible stuff for money.
Yeah, and you kind of know eventually it's like it's a cautionary tale.
Right.
They have to eventually willingly give it back, and
I honestly would have appreciated it if they were if they died like somehow. Like,
right. Like I could totally see that being an ending too.
I like that the ending was, spoiler alert, I like that the ending was like, okay, she got what she always wanted. Like she wasn't lying in that moment of saying that she was jealous of her sister and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
Yeah.
Even though we barely saw a buildup of her family, it was
I think that was
scene. I wish we had more of that really.
I think that was a result of her being able to like say so much truth to her husband ahead of time. So she felt like, oh, maybe this is another moment for me. Like at first, I think she wanted to really like kind of jab them at first, but then she was like, no, this is a moment for me to actually be honest, and
followed by
his
vegan lie.
Being mean
with the vegan lie,
but being mean is like very exhausting, and I think because she got so much thrown at her and she threw so much out that emotionally all she could spit out was the truth, especially when she's looking at her like very wholesome sweet sister who didn't do anything wrong to her.
Agreed. The movie did a good job of making you realize that sooner or later Peen does become numb, because when he started saying, well, I'm just gonna go get a blowjob from some girl, and she was like, they look in, it's like $1.50. It's like, okay, dude, whatever. At this point, we have destroyed each other. I really liked that.
And it was also a metaphor for, like, they mention it, how it's like we like kill ourselves in our like daily lives just to make a buck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In some way, some form or another.
She even said that,
Yeah, he says that in the beginning. It's like, and and then it's like just literally showing that they're like hurting themselves and killing themselves, just to make all this money. I thought it was kind of a small amount too. I was like, why $1 million? That's not going to last you.
Why didn't they stop at 200
That was 2010
grand?
money. That's what it is.
200 grand was enough to get them out of debt and get them back on track. Stop. Like, why didn't
that was another thing?
That was for me. I would have been like, I'm done. I'm good. Like,
I wish I had I'm assuming because they look young, they want us to feel that like they're young. So the guy kept saying high school. Usually people graduate high school like 17, 18. So say they're both like 25-ish. You know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah.
at the youngest, like 25-ish at the youngest, maybe 26, 27. But how old are they? Because like y'all, I get it. If you don't have a lot of money, if you don't have money a lot, you don't know money management. You manage what you can because you don't have a lot. So when you
Well, they
have
both
a
have
whole
bachelor's
bunch,
degrees, so that's at least
Right.
right? But
early
it's like
20s.
it's one of those things where I'm just like, how are y'all spending? Like when they were filling up their toilet with like money, right? And I was like, oh okay.
Which I
I'm
never
like,
understand that, but
I never
I never
me, but they could
What a
have
As
put it
long
in
plan.
the
as you keep
bank
the deposit
before,
at less than $10,000 a year, the IRS doesn't care.
yeah.
I'm sorry,
but
$10,000
they
a month.
but they could
Right.
they but obviously we find out from the film that they dumb. So that's why they spending money all over the house everywhere. But I'm just sitting here like I would have been living a very quiet life, especially if I couldn't explain to people where I got this money from.
Yeah.
Like you just said you were worried about the bank knowing because you can't explain it to the IRS. Why would you go big and beyond in front of people
Yeah, like
and
when
you
the friend
can't
asks,
explain it?
and she's like, ah,
Right?
ah.
We came into
Even her
oatmeal
mom.
stocks,
Well,
But no,
let's
but
take
Yeah,
her
oatmeal
mom, her
futures.
mom was like, is he pimping you out for this money?
okay.
Cause where are you getting this money from? Like,
I'm sorry, this might be bad to say this, but it makes sense that they would focus on $1 million in this movie. This
Yeah.
movie's estimated budget was
yeah.
$900,000.
Hmm.
Opening weekend
Really?
in the U.S. and Canada on April 7th of 2013 was $4,468.
Oh.
The gross in U.S. and Canada combined was $6,997,
How
Oh
many
my
and the
theaters?
gross
god.
worldwide was 245,027.
So they made a
Wow.
third of their budget worldwide.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
what
So I
what
would
was the number
probably
of
be
theaters?
beating
Did you
myself
see?
over to get money. What was that?
Number of theaters did you see?
I'm trying to see if it has that here. Box office details.
Not just to
I
see
don't
if
Because I
have.
Matt's
never
house,
even
but
I
Yeah, I
also
never
don't
at
even
have
heard
AMW.
IMDb Pro, but now I think I want to get
Okay.
it.
because I never even heard of this movie
Yeah, I hadn't
until
until my wife pointed it out
now.
to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sad that it did that bad. It shouldn't have done that bad. Like there are movies that are 10,000
Totally.
times worse that did way better,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
just marketing, I guess.
Well,
I
it
do
was
want to talk about
also
one actor in this film. Go ahead.
yeah. No, I think it also. I mean, like there was a lot of like names that they were throwing out there, people that were you know were definitely noticeable. You had Jack McBayer. You had
All right.
of course our main protagonist. You had Thomas Middleditch, which I believe he's more like SNL background, isn't he? He was the guy who played Gilead, one of the Hasidic
He's
Jews.
not normally on SNL, but
Oh, I've seen him before. Yeah, when I saw
Yeah,
him, I was like, that's the comedian
yeah,
dude.
he's a pretty
yeah.
like he's like a noticeable face. Even if you don't know who he is, he's
You
definitely
know
been
his
in things
face.
like Wolf of Wall Street, Godzilla, King of Monsters, which we could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his best work probably was Captain Underpants. But you have this. It was a joke.
Are you talking about
Um,
Bobby from SNL?
no, I probably
But
was. Yeah,
Bobby Moynihan's on SNL, but
yeah,
he's talking
Yeah.
about middle ditch
yeah.
or
Yeah.
yeah,
No, but I
who
mean,
played
like
he played one of the Hasidic Jews
yeah.
in this.
Trying to
I
find
think they
him.
were
Anyway,
more
go ahead.
focused on
Oh, I
their
see it.
cast and like the effects of like the fighting. I think the storyline, and in fact, if you look on IMDb, one of the top critic things was basically like it was promising, but it like really fizzled out fast because it just couldn't keep the story for what they were trying to push. It was definitely an
Uh,
intriguing idea at the beginning, and I also didn't know this. This was based off of a comic book series. So
It's
now
a
I want to go
comic
back
book
and
oh,
actually,
movie.
really?
it's a comic book movie technically, yes.
It'll have
That's
to go into my
hilarious.
comic book
Huh.
movies then.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So I'll probably end up buying this one just because I think it'd be worth a second viewing. I definitely I appreciate what this film is trying to do. What I wanted to mention was actually the actor. Where is he? Steve Park. He plays Dr. Ling.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's this guy comes on screen and I'm like, I know this guy. I've seen him in a bunch of movies. Where do I know
He's
this
been
guy?
in a lot.
And I go back and I'm like searching through his IMDb and I've seen him in a ton of stuff. I was right. But the movie that I remember him from my teenage years was Cuffs with Christian Slater. And he actually plays one of the cops in that movie. And I started to think about it. I'm like, this guy is an American actor that plays a lot of American roles. Yes, he's Asian American, but he's an American actor.
Hmm.
And then I realized,
Mhm.
wait a minute, this guy has always had an American accent. And now they have him playing with a Chinese accent in this film. And no offense, dude, it was noticeable. I noticed it. I was like, maybe because I knew he was an American actor that I could tell, but it kind of fell flat for me on the accent, which made his part not as important to me. It just didn't hit as well. Interesting choice to make as an actor. If you were, if I was an American
I mean,
actor,
he did come. He did literally travel from China.
right.
So
No, I
so
just meant
yeah,
for the
I mean,
actor. Interesting for the actor to
oh
choose
yeah, for the
a
actor,
role
right.
where
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah.
He's doing an accent without his native language, which
Brian
happens all the
was
time.
like,
But it was just
"What?"
interesting. Normally, you would see them
No, I
hire
get that,
a
but
Chinese actor who would have an accent. But yeah,
yeah,
it's just
right.
interesting.
He's Korean,
Yeah.
by the way. He's
Korean,
Korean.
and he played a Chinese guy.
Yeah.
He's Korean. Yep.
Interesting. They still do that a lot, but at the same time, we have
Well,
how many
unfortunately, with
British guys are playing Spider-Man at this point? Anyway,
well, it's like this.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, this is the thing that you go back and look at it, and I think this is why when we have conversations with things like, Shang-Chi and stuff like that, all Asians are not the same, and so it's why representation is appropriate. Unfortunately, executives like people like Bob Chapek, they don't understand the significance of making sure that you're authentic to the role that the person's portraying. But that's another topic in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's not to say that he didn't fulfill his role. I think as a person who knew the actor, I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't. It's like when you hear Ewan McGregor do an American accent, you're like, dude, I'm sorry, you're not that good at that. I'm sorry. There are some actors that just can't get rid of. It'd be like hearing Arnold do an American accent. I wouldn't buy it. I don't know. Anyway,
Honestly, it's
Like
like
Hugh
it's
Jackman
like,
being Van Helsing.
it's like what Kristen
Oh
Stewart was
yeah.
British in
Wait.
Snow White and the Huntsman. When she was like trying to be British. That was rough.
Now, didn't she
Rough.
play Diana recently, where she is
Yeah,
British?
and
I
her
think
accent's
I think she might
phenomenal
have
in
did
that.
better. I think she did better with that than she did in the other movie. Mind you, she was young in that
Yeah.
one, and she was having an affair with the director.
Yeah,
so
that
ain't
was
no
a while
telling.
ago.
Ain't no telling
Yeah.
like how she. But that accent was terrible. They barely had her speak in that movie. It was very just much
Right.
reaction.
Agreed. Juno Temple for me, I had never I don't know her as well as I thought I did. I've seen her in Horns, which is a phenomenal film, and then that's about it. I looked through her list and I'm like, wow, I don't.
Are you
think
watching
I've
Ted
seen-
Lasso at all?
I have not watched. It's a TV show, so the likelihood of me watching it is very
man.
low.
Yeah.
Mostly because
She's
I'll watch a
really
season
great
of
in
something.
Ted Lasso.
Okay,
She was in Maleficent.
So
Maleficent, the both or just the first one?
Mistress of Evil, so the second one.
The second one. Okay. Again,
I
haven't
haven't
seen
watched.
that.
I haven't watched it yet.
Sure, you haven't.
And then Alexis Bledel seemed like, again, we were mentioning these kind of random kind of
yeah,
almost
she kind of
cameos.
popped
Like,
up there. Yeah,
okay, like
I love her
um,
character. I love
yeah.
I love that she stepped out because she's usually very buttoned up, cardigan wearing in different forms in her movies. So I bet she looked at this and was like, "How much am I in it?" And I wear tight skirts and stuff. Okay.
well, that's fair. She always played the Gilmore Girl, who was,
Yeah, and all
the
her
next
stuff.
girl
Yeah,
next door.
she
Yeah.
What?
So,
Okay, correction. She was in both Maleficents. She was also in The Dark Knight Rises. I have no idea where.
Juno Temple, Dark Knight Rises. She played the kid, one of the
yeah.
street kids.
Okay.
I do remember her.
I think she did at the end with yeah.
Yeah, she's not in it much, but she's definitely in there. So this film, I mean, it feels like, other than it being a cautionary tale, there are some definite things about being honest with each other that come out in this film, about what pain is like for people. There are definitely things we could talk about in depth to this degree, but we're already at 7:45, so I don't want to take away from the other two films. I want to make sure we stay on track. And of course, as always, we have our pre-review with Sean, which will be coming up. And I think he might be excited about Spider-Man. I can't tell. Maybe you'll see. That being said, why don't we go ahead and rate this film? I'm gonna go ahead and start this time. I don't normally do that, but why not?
Ooh, I like it.
So my wife was worried. She was like, "Tell me you liked this one more than you liked Repo." And I think across the board, the four of us are going to say yes. We all agree that this is a
That's
better
not hard
film
to
than
do.
Repo.
Yeah.
So you should be happy there, love. But of the three
That's
movies
hilarious.
that we watched this week, this is actually my favorite of the three. I like this one the most, and it's probably because it's dark humor. I enjoy the way the pain plays out. I think their relationship has good charisma. They play off each other very well. And I love just kind of seeing the randomness that happens. And it kind of makes you go, "Oh," a lot. And I like that in a film. So I'm going to
If you
give
didn't
this,
say that, you'd be in your wife's doghouse.
I'm going to give this a 7, a 7 out of 10. That being said, why don't we just go right down here to all the movie things?
All right. This is a surprise for me. Like, I had no idea what was going to happen to it, so I was really pleasantly surprised to like it pretty much all the way through. Yeah, there was like the little bit with the Antique Roadshow, but I was able to get past it, and really like what they were trying to say. Metaphorically speaking, um, and yeah, just the idea of this whole thing. And like you do immediately put yourself in their shoes. Like, oh man, that's a crazy concept. Like, what what would I be doing? Like just for some money, and seeing the progress and how dark it could make you go. So
And
that
they
being
could have gone
said,
darker, I think. Sorry.
oh yeah, they totally could have. Like, I mean, obviously they were digging ditches, for to put people in. They didn't, and that was kind of interesting thing too. Like, they went to that edge and they didn't go there. Like, they were able to kind of pull themselves away. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna give it 7 out of 10 for me.
I like it. Mr. Marmalade.
So for me, being that I saw this movie a number of years ago, um, probably closer to when it came out, either on demand or somewhere, because I don't own this film. And it probably won't be one of those films that I would own other than if I were to be able to have the finances to just kind of like stockpile films again, because I like collecting the media. It was honestly a little bit forgettable for me. I mean, the concept is definitely novel. It's got some of that, like I said earlier, the monkey's paw type thing where there's this, wishes fulfilled with consequence. And of course, it definitely has a cautionary tale of like, money corrupts. And you have both of that where, you know, out of greed. I just kind of like struggle a little bit of how they got even into the situation. Like, I don't really feel like it didn't seem like the wife had these tendencies toward stealing a teapot or self
Yeah,
harm for gain until she sees the pot coming out of like that barrel. It just that kind of like took me out of it a little bit. There's a lot of humor. I think the characters in themselves are humorous, whether it's dark humor or not. They play well on themselves. um, the Antique Roadshow was probably one of my highlights just because it was like when they mentioned it, I'm like, if they don't do the Antique Roadshow for this, it would be a shame. And of course, then you have him doing it, and then it's a consequence because everybody knows they have the pot at that point that have the history of it.
that know about it.
Um,
Yeah.
and so it was good, but again, I probably won't go back to watch this film unless asked or somebody redeems this like 10 years down the road. So for me, though it's not a bad film, in the sense of I just couldn't wait to get over with it. It's not one of my favorites. So I'd say probably about a 6.5. Still not super low. I do see some of the like the plot line like holes and some things like that with the character. I don't judge based off of how well something does in the box office because I feel like one of the best masterpieces out there that should have been given a sequel was the A Team that they did.
I agree.
Um, that was a fantastic film, and of
Dude,
course we wanted it because it didn't do as well in the box office.
nobody can fly a tank like those guys. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. I mean, and that was a great team. If you're going to put a bunch of people that their faces when you go into the film, and you're going to be believable that they'd be on a TV show, or like that they're representing the guys on the TV show, that would be the group I would put. So
All right, I like it. And again, we're going to move right over to Black Girl Marble in a second, but this is not a movie that any of us at 12 years old would likely be engaging in. That's why we're not
Right.
doing that. Black Girl Marble.
This is my first time seeing this movie. Like I said, just looking at the title and not like the print or anything, like the poster or anything. I thought I was in for a British evening. But and maybe that's just me being very stereotypical.
You were thinking Downton Abbey or something along those lines?
Yeah, I was getting very like, maybe like a Bollywood mix with a
Oh man.
Downton Abbey type of
Wow.
feel, maybe. But I mean, I enjoyed the film. Yes, there are moments where you're kind of like, or again, this is one of those movies where I'm like, if you would have took like 10 minutes out, if you would have took a good like maybe a hot 15, it would have streamlined the film just a little bit more.
Agreed.
But
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like I felt like somebody's vision really wanted to get told, and so they were like, "We keeping all the scenes because this is what my brain had," you know.
Mhm.
Like, um, as much as I don't like to agree with Mr. Snippets, I'll have to give this.
Our relationship started in
Yeah.
controversy, so
Yeah, it
Mhm.
did. So it's gonna remain there forever.
Mhm.
I'll give this a 7. But I will never watch it again unless somebody asks me to. And I'm not saying that because it's a
Right.
bad film. I'm just saying it's one of those films that I
This is
feel
one
like
of those films.
you've
is
Yeah.
this
seen
one
it
of those ones
once.
where, like, if you were with friends and they were like, "We're putting on the Brass Teapot," you'd sit down and enjoy it?
Yep.
Okay, because you have
I'd
the
probably
like.
be arguing like, let's put.
Yeah.
There's something else out there. You know, we can
I
watch
mean,
A
I
Knight's
would try to
Tale.
coax. I would be like,
Yeah.
"Do you guys really want to see a magical teapot?" Or I would throw it in there and
Yeah.
be like, "I've seen this before," you know, because usually people want to watch something where all of you
Mhm.
have never seen this. You can experience it together. So hopefully that
Or
would
you can
get me
be
out.
you
Listen,
can be
I
like,
would
you guys,
rather.
it's not British, you guys. So
I
just
know, right?
putting that
Don't
out
get
there.
fooled by
It's,
the
yeah.
don't get fooled by the
That's what I
teapot.
thought. Yeah.
I
Very
would rather watch a
American.
film with profanity filters on than watch that again. I mean, honestly.
This is
Wow. Okay.
very
Okay,
Right.
American. Uh
just a recommendation: if you guys ever get your hands on one of those old profanity filters, that they had for like conservative homes or whatnot, get it and watch The Negotiator. It is the best. Like it is the best film.
The Sam
No,
Jackson
I'm sorry,
movie?
not The Negotiator. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Conspiracy Theory with
Oh, okay.
Mel Gibson
Oh, with
and
Mel
yeah.
Gibson and Julia
Watch
Roberts.
I love
yes,
conspiracy
watch that
theories. It's my
film
I
favorite
love
film.
with the
that too.
profanity
Yeah.
filter on.
Favorite films.
The subtitles will knock your socks off.
That's
They
so
are
good.
even more entertaining than the actual dialogue themselves.
Is it as
I
good
love.
as the TV edit for The Big Lebowski, though? Where there's
I
the
haven't
scene
seen
where
that.
he says, "You never fuck a stranger in the ass." The
Yeah.
TV version is, "You never mess with a stranger in the Alps."
Yeah. And that's true too.
I mean, it
So
is
it's
true.
funny how
Both are
it's
absolutely
both are
true.
very true. Yeah.
But just hearing it coming out of John Goodman's mouth over and over and over,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
doesn't.
And
It
just so
doesn't
you
work.
know, you cashed on your F word, so you can't use
Yeah,
it next show.
but we talked about this.
Ah.
I had the
Yeah.
F word this week. Why are you giving away your secrets?
Yeah.
Why you giving all your secrets?
I'm kidding, of course.
Yeah, but all in all, I thought it was a good film.
Good, good. So we did enjoy it, but now let's move
Mhm.
on
Overall.
to Mr. Right, and this was a redemption by
Ooh.
Black Girl Marvel, and I know why, and it's primarily because Sam Rockwell is in this film,
Right.
and she is a
Doing
Sam
Sam
Rockwell
Rockwell
stan
shit.
to the max. Wow, I said something Gen Z. That was weird. I don't normally do that.
Is that to the max?
It's almost like you're one of those TikTokers.
No, I said you were a stan.
I
I've
know,
never
right?
said that. Like I've never said stan in that
Oh,
way
Stan.
ever.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what I was asking. I was like, to the max is not Gen Z, but I'm right.
So
What are you talking about?
To the max, like ruled out the entire like stand
Yeah, I was
thing.
like,
Yeah.
that being said, this is a movie I kept seeing the cover. I love both actors. There's no reason why I shouldn't have watched this movie way sooner than I did, but I
Right.
always skipped it, and
Yeah. Same.
I'm not sure why. Well, now I know why, because I've seen the movie now, and I can say why I skipped it. Because I think I nailed why I didn't want to watch this movie in the first place, and it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I did have a good time, but this is how I feel. I feel like you guys do about the Brass Teapot. About this, I will never watch this movie again. I just won't. And it's not that it's bad. It's not that it's not that there
He
are
also
great
thought
moments.
this was going to be a very British
I
film.
did, Mr.
Also,
Right.
Mr. Right. Like, yeah,
Well,
up there with-
it's a little British.
yeah.
It's got a little Tim Roth, a little slice
That's
of
right.
Tim Roth on the
Tim
side.
Roth was great in this.
He really was. And there's an actor that can do an American accent, like his good Southern
Oh
accent.
man, yeah, because he
nailed
went
that.
back and forth too. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Saying Gen Z is the most Gen X thing ever. I feel that.
Yeah.
That being said, why don't we get Mr. Marvelite's view on Mr. Right, and then we'll move over to Black Girl Marvel.
Yeah. So if Black Girl Marvel is a Sam Rockwell fan, Stan, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be more Gen Z, I guess.
To the max.
To the max.
I would probably be too, because again, like I said last week, I love Sam Rockwell. I just like his demeanor. In fact, I feel like they hire Sam Rockwell for the purpose of being Sam Rockwell. That's just
Right.
how it is.
Like, this
It's
is
kind of like for
written for
Nicolas
him.
Cage being Nicolas Cage, except for
Mhm.
Sam Rockwell has to play unhinged. Nicolas Cage is automatically unhinged, and so you have this he's playing this character. He's this assassin who kills bad guys, and which is he kills killers. Like I only kill
Mhm.
because they're killers, I only kill them because they're bad guys,
Yeah.
which is like the most like anti-hero you can get with a character. You know, listen, the plot's not perfect in this film. This came out in 2013. I'm sorry, 2016, I think it was. 15. I'm sorry. It's only a couple years after Teapot.
14.
Interesting enough, we were reviewing
Sorry, I'm
two
just throwing
films.
numbers out there.
Yeah, we're reviewing two films that were both flops. The Brass Teapot and this one.
Yeah.
This one had an $8 million budget. Um, it only grossed worldwide $607,000. So yeah, it wasn't the best. But again, it's still a fun film to watch. I'm not a big Anna Kendrick fan, but I did like her in this. I like it when she plays a little bit more crazy. Um, so and she definitely does that. She's kind of like that hopeless, like she can't commit to
Uh-huh.
anything. She can't really do anything right. Everybody wants to give her advice on who she is, and of course when she meets Mr. Right, her real ability comes
I don't
out.
want
And
to
I
tell you my
think
name. I don't like my name. I don't want to tell you my name.
yeah, it's like yeah,
Yeah.
Francis. What is with
Francis.
guys named Francis in films? Like I was thinking about
Mhm.
Deadpool when she said Francis, and I'm like, oh, that's great.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought it was a fun film. A lot of stuff was unnecessary, I think, but it was kind of what made it fun and over the top. Um, but literally around this time frame, when we got Mr. Right, we got Killers with Ashton Kutcher, we got Night and
Night
Day
and
with
day.
Tom Cruise. This was like this
Mhm.
this is like the revival of a genre that we saw back with Arnold Schwarzenegger in True Lies.
Mhm. Which is the
You could
superior
also
one, in
you
my
could
opinion.
almost kind of say that more recently we got a similar type film when it comes to what was it with The Rock and Kevin Smith. Um what is it? Oh, I forget the film now. I forget now. Um but like with their film, it's like this idea, like the secret life of this person. And so the trope gets played a lot, but it was still fun. And I like the fact that at the end she didn't have to be saved as much. She kind of got to a point where she could save herself. I'm a T-Rex. And
Mhm.
that part was good. So I generally I like the film. I thought it was fun. It's not perfect, but it's definitely worth a watch in my opinion.
Okay. I love this film. Okay, so like this is okay. So I never watched this like in theaters or anything like this because during that time, all those movies that Mr. Marvelite listed up, I never watched those either. So because they just looked, I don't know, I'm just tired of seeing white couples on TV doing stuff. Like I was just tired, and um so I was just on Netflix one day and I was like, what I should watch something. And then who did I see across my screen but the amazing Sam Rockwell? And I saw Anna Kendrick and I was like, this is a weird pairing in my book to put together in a movie.
Right.
And I was like, well, let me check it out. And when I tell you I watched this movie back to back, I don't know, over 20 times since the first time I watched it. Like it's the movie that I put on like when I know I need to go to sleep and I need to like but just I need some type of noise in the background to watch it, I'll put on Mr. Right. Or if I'm like, oh, I'm about to lay down and just chill out, I'll put on Mr. Right. Like it's a very comfort film for me. And that says a lot about me because he kills people, but I don't know. Um I will say, I think also the reason why I like this film is because I remember one day I was thinking of ideas for like movie scripts and like plot points and things, and I was like, it'd be so cool to see the origin story of an assassin. And then I wrote that somewhere, and then I watched this movie, and that's literally what this is. Like we literally see Anna Kendrick become an assassin. Like we
Right.
see her origin story of her figuring out that she has a knack for something, and then
And the sequel would
finally
be Mrs. Right.
exactly. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Oh,
And then the
I
third film would be The
exactly
Rights.
because they
Right.
got babies
Mr.
and
and Mrs.
it'll
Right.
be
Yeah.
it'll be a sadistic The Incredibles, like they just go around killing people. Um,
So they did make the
Mhm.
the
but
like Hitman story once before. The Professional is technically that story.
yeah, I mean, well, see, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I thought it was funny. Sometimes I think ridiculous things in movies are great because it's just like I feel like that was a world where it worked in. I don't think that would work in another world. you know, that is created. I thought it was funny. Of course, I get some dancing because he's the dancing assassin, so that's always amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
So funny.
Anna Kendrick, I feel like is like at a good place in her acting in this because I feel like she's always acting like this in movies, but it doesn't fit, which is why I don't like her in most movies. But in this movie, it works. Like her very high energy, bouncy, weird, talking, breaking up of her sentences type of acting works very well in this film.
See, I'm the
it
opposite.
really felt like it was written for both of them in my book.
I'm totally the opposite with her. This movie, she went too far with that quirkiness. She like had to play it up too much. And I actually don't like being a person that defends Anna Kendrick because whatever, like I don't know her from Sunday, but I've always liked her in most films. Although it's interesting because my first experience with her was Twilight, and she plays a total B. And
but you barely see her, so that's
I know, but that's who I thought she was. I was like, oh, that's just an actress playing herself. And then I went, oh crap, okay, she's got range and talent. And I know we're talking about her singing ability here in the chat, but I will defend her singing ability. I think she does a fantastic job as a singer, and like all the movie things, Pitch Perfect is one of my guilty pleasures. And I know that movie, at least the first one, way too well.
Yeah.
So you guys are in the comments talking about the pacing. For me, I didn't mind the pacing because I felt like it matched the characters, and I felt like if that's a way that they were going, because sometimes it will move too fast, sometimes it will move too slow. Like it moved slow when her life was like kind of like in shambles a little bit. It moved fast when he was like taking the forefront. But I enjoyed it because some people, like some actors that was in it that I didn't know was in it, like really made me laugh. Like Tim Roth is hilarious. Also that accent for the American accent is terrible. Oh, I was like, this is
For Tim Roth?
Sir. Yes, didn't like it at
what?
all.
I thought he nailed it.
Southern.
No,
draw.
I didn't like it at all. I felt like it was I felt like I could tell that he was trying to put on an accent and not it just kind of like being a seamless accent. And that could just be something they were like make it weird and like make it like very, very like extra to show that you're like trying very hard, but these people still can't figure out because they're dumb, can't figure out that you're not who you say. You know, maybe that's the thing. But also I like RZA. RZA was actually a surprise
I love
to me.
RZA.
Did not know I did not know he was in this film. So when he popped
no,
up,
neither did I. Yeah,
I was like, wait a second, and then
he always surprises me though. Every time I see
like
him,
one
I'm
of
like,
the
dude.
funniest. He's like one of the funniest
so
in this
good.
whole thing. He's like, give me this Elmer Fudd shotgun.
Yeah,
Like,
Him
he's hilarious to me.
and Sam Rockwell had better charisma
love
on
him.
camera than Sam Rockwell and Anna Kendrick. Way
They're
better
pretty
chemistry.
good. Yeah.
I wanted to
I
see
feel like Sam
them
Rockwell has
in a
good
movie
chemistry
together.
with
Like,
him.
let Steve and Mr. Right go run off and be assassins together. That's what I want to see.
But I love that they became like besties throughout the film. Like, you supposed to kill me.
Well,
And you're the only person who's gotten close to actually doing it. And now we're besties.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it.
All the movie things. What's your take on Mr. Right?
I thought it was a really fun movie. Yeah, there's some like plot things in it that I was able to overlook just because, you know, like Sam Rockwell is just so lovable. I mean, and as soon as that title, the title, he's like dancing across where the title's revealing behind him. Like, it's just Sam Rock. It's like they're just like, okay, Sam, you just do your thing, you know, and they just roll. And
Here's
like
a clown
Sam's
nose.
just dancing across. Yeah, exactly. Here's a clown nose. Go kill some people. Yeah, he's just so. I mean, he's just got that charm and that charisma about him. You know, he's just so great, and the way he delivers lines too is just like he has this great cadence about him, and how he just is so like chummy with everybody. You know, even in the midst of like, you know, danger, everything. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I will say there was like the little like plot point of like the main like gangster guy trying to like get them to like hire him just so they can kill him or some kind of like, I was kind of like, that felt a little too convoluted there for me a little bit. But other than that, like I love the whole like the scene where like they're like on a date and he goes out to like kill this guy because the guy reveals a gun to him and he goes out and like kills him in the back. He's like, oh, sorry, I just had to go kill someone real quick. And she's just like, oh, haha.
Oh yeah.
He was always
Because
honest with her.
nobody would believe it. I love that he was always honest with her.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
one of my
From the
favorite
moment
parts.
they met.
Like,
And he was like, I never lied to you. She's like, yeah, but I thought it was more of like a joke.
He's like, no,
Yeah,
you
and
never
But-
asked. Like
but-
you
Yeah.
assumed
that's not
that I
my
wasn't telling
problem.
you the
I'm
truth.
telling you the truth, and you're
Right.
not taking it as truth.
Yeah,
And I love
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
from his perspective,
Yeah,
she
I thought
kept
it was
rolling
great.
with it, and like he kept going,
No,
"Oh, she thinks
totally.
I'm cool."
Yeah, it's like,
so when
okay.
when he kills the first guy in front of her, I think he was just like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
you're
she's
like-
been cool with this for 2 days, for 48 hours or
That
whatever."
was really great too. He gets back in the car. He's like, "Oh God, are you angry with me right now? Like what? Like you just shot
It's like,
this dude in
He's
front
a
of me."
bad guy.
Yeah.
Can we just? I mean, if I'm being honest, we talk about Anna Kendrick. I really felt like she had a really good reaction to seeing somebody
Yeah.
get murdered.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I thought
Yeah.
so
I felt
too.
like
Yeah.
I felt like she had a really good reaction because first she was just like,
Mhm.
radio's time station. Let me just put this radio on and have a good time in the car.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then he sees him kill a guy, and she's just literally in the car like stunned. And I just felt like that was like such a great
Frozen,
moment
like,
of like acting.
yeah.
Like just to see, as an actor, I love to see some stuff like that.
Totally.
So I was like, that's a masterclass of watching. That's how you get
Yeah,
shocked
she
at a
did pretty
fake
good.
death.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like I thought it was
Yeah.
really good.
So
Yeah.
for me,
And he throws the
That was
knife
fun.
at her. Like that whole scene was like
Oh,
top to
God.
top. But it's like
I don't
it's
mind
like,
that it was over the top.
That
because-
was
and they
Yeah,
just
that was
laid
a
the
little over the
groundwork
top, yeah,
there
right.
for it to happen later. Had they not laid that groundwork for the end, I would have been like, this is so stupid. I would have hated the movie outright.
yeah.
Right.
If you don't give me some reason to believe it, and the fact that he like the whole like flow and almost like I felt like they were talking about the Force. They might as well have been.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
I loved that. But there were the plot point that all the movie things brings up really bugs me. The whole idea that there's this side thing going on that literally has nothing to do with Mr. Wright and his girlfriend. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the other cop or the fake cop that's trying to take him out. Like none of
Mhm.
that has anything to do with it. And yet
Mhm.
we keep focusing on these characters just to drive home this final scene that almost didn't need to happen because he kept trying to not kill them. It was weird. Like
Yeah.
it started to just kind of like, okay, are they?
And he
what is gonna
promised not
happen
to
here?
kill, but then she just completely demolishes
yeah, and
the
then
I
she
know.
just
She
starts
like
killing everybody.
kills
like,
two
yeah, I
dudes,
popped
like,
him.
yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
not believe her in that role, but I also like don't believe her in that role. I don't know. It's hard for me with her because she's
No, I get it.
too goody, I guess. Like
too
I was talking about this with
Kendrick.
my wife. I don't think I could ever see in a
Too-
sultry role because
too
she's just too
doe-eyed.
awkward. Like exactly, doe-eyed. That's a
Mhm.
great way to put it.
Mhm.
So I was mentioning this before the show too. There were some technical things that really drove me crazy. The lighting in this film was really, really bad. There were moments where one character was completely washed out and the other character was in shadow because they didn't like the scene well, or they were trying to go for natural light, which I understand. The rain scene at the end seemed totally superfluous, and you could tell it was a fire hose. And there was no need for it. Like there was quite literally a waste of budgetary funds to bring in a fire truck. The scene would have played just as well. The only thing he wouldn't have been able to do was go, "I'm all wet" or whatever. She asked him, "Are you all wet?" There was nothing that needed to be in there for. As far as the flow of the movie, I get what Lala was saying, where like the flow is different depending on which character you're following, but technically this is Anna Kendrick's character's film. We're watching her. She's the main character. She meets Mr. Wright. She falls in love with him. We get to see him as a side character. And if you look, she's top billed. Anna Kendrick is the top bill of the film. So I feel like they could have skipped some of this side plot stuff. They could have shorted up a little fast to make it a little faster, which would have made those jokes punchier. They would have hit one after the other rather than a good joke. We're waiting, another good joke. Now we're waiting. And that's kind of how the film felt. That's why the pacing bothered me, is the jokes kept hitting, but so far apart that it couldn't keep me on that roll that good, funny movies do. And Sam, as amazing as he just couldn't carry the entire film. So with that being said, let's talk about things I did like about the film. I love the nose. I love that he actually let her wear the nose. That shows how vulnerable he was with her, because that's like his sacred thing that he used. And I do love the very opening of the film where he just kills the lady and you're like, what the hell? Why
Right.
did he do that? So there are definitely moments.
I mean,
don't get me
that
wrong.
whole thing was like a very good way to like introduce his character too. Like you
I just feel
saw,
like that's a good plot point.
you know,
Like
exactly who he
started off
was.
as like a CIA agent type of guy that felt like he was fighting for his country, then got lied to, and they tried to kill him, and then he was just like, and I think he had like brain damage or something like that. It
Yeah.
seemed like he had brain damage.
No, they mentioned it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so. And then, because I didn't get to watch it because I fell asleep all day. Anyway, and then for him to turn around and be like, "Oh, okay, the real bad people are the people that's trying to kill people, so I'll kill those people." Then,
Yeah.
so yeah, I enjoyed that plot point. I thought that was very different. I like things that are different and not the same Like I stopped being an assassin and now they're chasing me, very like burn notice type of thing. Well, he got burned, but still, like, you know.
Are you ragging on Burn Notice?
No, I love burn notice.
Okay. I gotta watch a lot of
A
TV, but
Michigan,
come on.
a Michigan native is in burn notice. Okay.
Well, and one of the best Michigan
Sir-
natives, besides yourself.
Sir Bruce Campbell is in burn notice.
Exactly.
I can't rag on that.
Sir Bruce Campbell.
He should. If Americans could have knights, he would be one of ours. I think we would have to give him that. And why can't we have knights? American knights.
We'd call him dudes.
So
Dude
Bruce
Campbell.
Campbell, Bruce Campbell and Burn
Detroit
Notice
was
was why I wanted
founded
him
on
to be Sully for Uncharted.
I could see that.
Detroit was founded on French land. Like Detroit is actually a French word. It's
Detroit.
you know, it's actually a French word, Detroit. So it's like, one, I should be speaking French for one, but whatever. And two, I don't know. Like we need to have some type of like dignitary so we can like anoint our people that come from here.
That's a good segue, Lala. Speaking of French, this movie took place in New Orleans, and I didn't notice that. There was nothing about that told me this movie took place in New Orleans, so it felt like they didn't either shoot there or didn't get any B-reel from New Orleans. And then the other part was there was one cop in the entire film, no matter how many bullets were fired. Thought that was kind of odd. And he was shot to death. Oh, spoilers. Sorry, the cop dies. One cop, he's really like the most pointless character in the whole film. Like he's a.
But I mean,
character.
if you think about it, he was gonna call for backup a whole bunch of times, but then Tim Roth's character will always slide in and be like, "Nah. See, this is what you know."
Right.
What are you doing?
But then when he did call back up, he was like, it's taken forever to get here. And I'm like, okay, so basically this whole movie says the cops in New Orleans in this world are worthless.
And who doesn't hear a gunshot inside the restaurant or the bar when the gun shot outside when he's fighting the guy?
Well, they're New Orleans, but so it wouldn't have been that big a deal. It depends on where in New Orleans they were.
Apparently, I guess.
I mean, if they're in the wrong place, then it wouldn't have been that weird. Or not wrong place, but in a particular place. I agree. There's the whole time that they're fighting outside of her apartment building in that like pool area, nobody is around. Like it's just our characters.
Yeah,
nobody like looking on or like, oh, and I'm like, wow, okay. That to me was as unreal. The amount of no people was as unrealistic as the amount of rain in the final season. It was just like final scene. It just kept pulling me out over and over again. And it's a comedy. I should probably let that go. But when I notice these things, I don't let them go.
Well, the rain makes more sense in New Orleans. I mean, let's face it, they get a lot of rain there.
True.
Yeah, it is like pretty heavy when it does come down. It doesn't rain like a lot. You know, like here in the Northwest, it kind of like we have like steady rain, but in like a lot of other areas, like Maryland's the same way. It's like 10 minutes of just heavy fat rain and then it's done.
Yeah, we don't get that as much. We'll get a mist for like 28 hours.
Yeah.
Which is great. There's nothing like walking through a mist in Oregon.
Welcome to the weather portion of the real study, by the way.
We are gonna no, we're not doing a weather section.
There's a front coming off from the east.
Today in weather across the United States, we are getting a storm that they may eventually get over there. We'll see.
Yeah.
The rain was out of the blue, Ray says, and the lack of neighbors was unrealistic. It just,
lack of neighbors.
And again, it's the budget constraints. They spent a lot of money on some of that action stuff. Like they did some decent
also
action
on the
shots.
Actors too. Like,
and the actors, agreed.
They didn't have like broke actors in this, you know what I'm saying? And the Kendrick and Sam Rockwell aside, like RZA is a known actor in Hollywood. Like I'm pretty sure he comes at a hefty price.
Tim Roth.
The guy that plays Vaughn is James Ransone. He was in It. He's been in several other things, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh, I've seen this guy in several things, but he's not.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about him being in It.
Yeah, he was in. He played
Anson Mutton's in there. I always love his name.
Yeah.
That name is amazing.
The guy that played Moon, is that who you were talking about? Michael Upland. Johnny Moon, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. I felt so bad for that guy.
Names in cinema history.
But I was like, you got beat up and then changed your name to Johnny Moon and wore Did you not learn what bullies are going to do? I don't know. I feel like
it's very taser face like, you know.
It was. He was like a real world taser face. No doubt. I think that's a perfect description of him.
Taserface.
But one of my favorite parts
Yeah.
of that film, one of my favorite parts, because I would say the whole movie is my favorite part. One of my favorite parts of that movie is when he's like, I'm Johnny fucking Moon. And he's like, they're in each other's faces, and she's like, I was really thinking, like, were y'all gonna make out? Like, were y'all? Because honestly, because what was funny to me is that, like, that whole scene where they were like getting closer and closer, I was like, are they going to make out? Like, I really had that question, and then she asked the same question, and I cracked up for like days because I was like, I really wanted them to kiss. I want to spin off with their relationship. Like, I want to. Like,
The
I think it
guy,
was great.
the number 2 guy for the older brother, who was always just stoic. What the hell? Like, what kind of a character arc is this? Like, he's stoic and broody, and he looks like he's gonna F everybody up the whole movie, and then he can't handle holding a grenade? Like, that scene bugged me to no
I
end.
love that scene so much because he ain't no soldier. It just showed you how
like he was just
how much he was like building up this wall that he was this thing, and he wasn't this person.
Right.
I don't know.
He was more of like this. He was more of like this guru to that other character.
Yeah.
You know, like so.
Ray says henchmen don't get
right,
character arcs. She's right. They don't get character
Yeah.
arcs. I feel like we need more character arc. If a stormtrooper from A New Hope can get an entire book written about him, I feel like henchmen deserve a little more screen time.
Yeah.
That's just me.
That's the movie we should all make.
Henchmen?
Call it Henchman. Yeah, and it's
like
about or just henchman, and it's about one henchman that
I
we
love
follow
it.
like his daily life at first, but
his action is toned down and cheaper to shoot, while the action that's actually happening is off
like all
screen
this
over
chaos
there.
is going around him. Like he's just
It'd be cheaper.
There was a
about
comic
lunch.
book.
Like when's lunch gonna be? Like and shit like that.
Oh, I love it. No, okay, that was one of the parts of the movie. I have to say this, Marvelite, and then I'm going to totally go to you. I apologize.
Yeah.
The guy that when Mr. Wright stands up and goes, "Hey guys, look, you guys want to go to your cat, your kids? Like, what are you doing? Nobody wants to do this. Who wants to give up?" And the guy stops. He puts his gun down. And he leaves. I'm like, okay, that
like,
never happens in movies, and it needs to happen more often. Mr. Marvelite.
So in the, I believe it was the 2015, 2014 Marvel run during the summer, because they always do their big events. There was actually a comic book that reminds me of what all the movie things said about like doing like a show, Henchmen. It follows one guy who's a member of Hydra, and he's just like a typical agent. And it takes him, and it's one issue, and you go home with him. You see the family struggles. You see how he wants to like upgrade to like, you know, the flamethrower guy or whatever it is. I've got it. I've got to pull it out, but it's
so
like this
good.
one guy, and like it's like Madam Hydra noticed me today or whatever. It's like it's just
I love it.
It's the dumbest thing, but it's like it makes perfect sense of like you know these guys have these lives behind, and it's like wondering. It's like
it's a 9 to 5
like
for them.
it's like Deadpool's buddy in the first film, where he's like, hey, from IHOP or whatever it was, and like talking to him, and he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna knock you out now, and it's that kind of thing, because he's not gonna hurt Bob, you know, or whoever it was.
Clerk's talking about the stormtroopers, kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lala, you were gonna say something.
That's good.
I really don't remember. It's fine. It's okay.
On that note, we do have another movie that we're going to get to, so we should probably review this one, or give our rating, I should say. And then we do have our pre-review with Sean. I am going to stumble my words tonight. So why don't we go ahead with Lala? She was the one that picked this movie. What is your rating?
Okay, so I love this film, and I will love it until the dawn of time. I give this film a 9.5.
Oh.
Okay, if you guys don't know, for Lala, that is ridiculously high. Okay, that is wow.
Because it just has elements I love. I love Sam Rockwell. If you're in our Discord, the Real Study Discord, you would know that I love Tim Roth as well. I love my white man, obviously. Look who I'm around. And so I love them. Anna Kendrick, for me, Ray is too stunned to rate because of the high number that I gave this. I just think I gave it a 9.5 because I feel like this film is just pure fun. Like, I can ignore any of the things that were brought up tonight, because everything that was brought up tonight is very valid. Like, I couldn't be like, oh, but this is because, like, I can't do any of that. It was like, no, let me correct it. No, I can't do any of that. It was all very some films are just meant to be fun.
No, totally.
Budget
Like, I think we
constraints
all
can
have those
add,
films too.
Yeah.
budget constraints could add to like quick writing or like, as
Mhm.
Deadpool would say, lazy writing or however it is. But I just felt like it was super duper fun. It was funny. I
Mhm.
laughed at it. It's like to see and I like a weird concept to see an assassin that
Right.
doesn't kill anybody find love, essentially. Like that's just, and that person kind of comes into their business like, let's kill
Yeah, he's
people
kind of a
together. And then,
unicorn in that way. You're right. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and then you see the CIA kind of like look for them both, and you can't stop them. It's just a great film, and I give it a 9.5. Yeah, I love it.
I like it.
I'll
I
probably
like
watch it tonight before I go to sleep.
it. All the movie things.
I'm gonna give this one an 8. That was really fun. I enjoyed it. And like I think was it you, Snitty? You mentioned there's a location thing where they kept focusing on different stuff about a specific location. Did you mention that earlier, or was that for the previous film we just reviewed?
No,
You
I
said
think it
there
was
was like
this one. It was
dragons.
like dragons and stuff. Like it was
Yeah.
That
like
was
one
from the
location.
previous film.
Oh, was it?
Oh, okay.
Oh no, it was from this film. I'm so no, you're right.
Yeah,
So
so-
they're on a walk, and
Yeah.
Mr. Wright and Martha are trying. Martha, what a terrible name for this character. Are trying to get to
And
know
I
each
love
other.
it.
I
Oh,
loved
it works.
too,
It
yeah.
works. Martha Agatha. Ugh, what a
Because
terrible.
she goes off
Yes.
on like she goes
Yeah.
off on like this whole like name thing about
Somebody just guided our raid. Interesting. That has never happened before. So, Mr. Salty Dog, we will be sorry, Captain. You've earned that title. We will be rating his choice here soon. But no, there's a moment where they're walking through the park essentially, and it looks like maybe a cool kids park from New Orleans or wherever this movie was shot. And I got this impression that the director loved this area, or whoever the
right.
location scout, because they kept focusing more on this park than they did the actors just
my-
walking through a scene. Anyway,
Yeah, so the thing I was gonna mention about that was like sometimes what happens with those kind of situations is maybe they like paid a good chunk of money to use it, and so they're like, we're gonna maximize as much footage as we can and maximize as much time as we can because we paid a lot of money for this. So then they like feel okay, now we got to use some of this in the edit somewhere. So I feel like that's one of those elements
Sure.
they did, but besides that, like there's just a fun concept. I love Sam Rockwell. I will say Anna Kendrick is a little forgettable in it. Like it felt a lot like it was a Sam Rockwell film for me, which was great. Like I was along for the ride. I loved all the little fun, miscommunication things that they kept having, so yeah, that was great.
I love it. Mr. Marmalade.
I probably would give this an 8 as well. I would say this is probably my more favorite role for Anna Kendrick than some of the other stuff I've seen. Whereas, like Pitch Perfect and stuff is more of a guilty pleasure for some people. I'm not a big fan of it. And it's nothing against the films. It's just, I don't know. When my wife obsessed on Pitch Perfect, I kind of just like got turned off by it. And she knows that and she's okay with it.
We'll watch it with her.
But it's weird though, because I say that as I'll be on TikTok and there'll be a scene from one of the Pitch Perfect movies, and for whatever reason I am compelled to watch it. I don't know why. Maybe it's just
Because
trying
it's
to
a comedy gold. It's not even look. Pitch Perfect doesn't get the just desserts that it needs because it's got Elizabeth Banks behind that film. Like she is putting her heart and soul into that film, and I think it shows because she's so dedicated in Hollywood, and I think she gets shafted constantly. Anyway, that's just I love Elizabeth Banks, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. So and again, Sam Rockwell is probably like the crowning point of the film for me. I just like his chemistry. He can make even some mundane things fun. Literally every time I watch him in a film, I want to go back and watch Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and that film is really not good compared to the book, but it's still because it's got Sam Rockwell in it. I love it. So yeah, I would say an 8, and I would definitely watch this as a 12-year-old. And I probably would probably rate it a little bit higher because I would like the action. And I probably would pay attention to the plot hole. So I'd probably give it like an 8.5, 9.
Yes, Biggie, we did know Sam.
Yes,
we all
Biggie,
know that
we
Sam
do.
is in TMNT and he is the cigarette slinging
Yes.
gang member who ends up ratting out Shredder in the end, which we love. Yes, and that was his absolute first role. And yet this is the only movie I can think of that he didn't get a close up on his feet dancing.
He crushed it though.
Oh, he did a great job. I love him in the film.
Does he dance?
Oh yeah,
Does he dancing in that at all?
there is
No.
dancing like with the foot, but I don't
He
know if
doesn't
we ever
do it.
see it with
He
him.
doesn't do it, but in
Yeah,
every
yeah.
other film, I swear it's in his
I know.
contract to get a
I
close
swear
up of his
too,
feet
like-
dancing, and it's got his particular
It has to
move
be.
that
At
Sam
least some
does.
dancing.
Yeah, I want to see
Honestly,
the supercut of that.
he does the same moves. Like he moves his feet like really, really fast. Like
Yeah, he
in and
does
out,
his
like,
little
in and out.
twisty.
He
It
does
is
that all the
absolutely
time,
his foot.
and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
because he used to like break dance back in the day or something like that when he was like in New
Oh,
York. Or
funny.
something like
Is that how they found him for
Yeah.
TMNT?
Wow.
Interesting.
Probably.
That'd be cool. We all love Sam, and that's part of the reason. Pretty much
I would love to
suggest a
do-
Sam Rockwell movie, we'll review it. I mean, nobody on this panel is going to say no. We might just start calling the show Sam Rockwell the show.
Yeah.
If he's
The
not in a
real
movie
Sam
or adjacent to
Rockwell
it, we don't want to talk about it. Anyway, that aside, I'm going to give this movie a 6. I think that
I saw that coming.
I said, I think because of what I said about the Brass Teapot, this is my second favorite movie of the 3. Spoilers.
Oh
Can't wait.
goodness.
And
Oh man.
being that it's a 6, I think again I would tell people watch this movie. I would say watch it, but I would say don't
He's
get
in a
your
mood
like,
this week.
expectations up high. I would say just enjoy yourself. Just walk through it like a fun comedy, and you'll enjoy
Oh.
yourself. I wouldn't want to hype anybody on this film. I wouldn't be like, oh, it's amazing, and then they'd watch it and go, shit, no, it wasn't.
I would, because I don't care. No, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
Like
now to be fair to Lala,
you love it. You love it.
No, we do. To be fair to Lala, she sat through the Need for Speed movie with me with
Woo!
with
Ooh.
why do I forget his name? The actor that's the main in Need for Speed.
Ethan Hawke?
No.
Uh,
It's
he
Jesse
does
from
very good
Breaking
movies.
Bad.
Yeah.
Oh, that one. I was thinking
Anyway,
another one. Okay.
it's one of my guilty pleasure films. I love it to death. I love it for every possible reason that most people hate it, and I talk about it in the same way Lala talked about Mr. Right. So I totally understand where she's coming from. And it's weird because I feel about this movie kind of the way she felt about it. Like, oh, it was watchable, but I'll never watch it again. And like, you know, it was
Aaron
okay
Paul.
at one time. Aaron Paul, thank you.
Yeah, Aaron
Who
Paul.
I do love. And I would love to torture you
That
two with that movie sometime, but we'll talk
No,
about that another
please
time.
no.
That aside, we do have the pre-review with Sean here coming up, and then we will of course move into 8-Bit Christmas. I think I did get all the ratings this time. I didn't forget Mr. Marvelite or all the movie things.
Sweetie, I have a question real quick. When they are watching the pre-review, can they hear us talking in here?
No, you guys are totally silent, but you won't know I'm coming back. That's the only reason I ever just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you guys can talk, but
Okay.
as soon as you hear me, I guess.
Yeah.
Or as soon as it looks like it's gonna
Everyone
end,
will.
like whatever
Right.
the final movie is. But you know,
That's all
'cause I
you
know
gotta
you guys
do.
are watching. So, all right. That being said, let's give Sean his time in the glory.
Yay, Sean.
Here we go.
Ultimate.
How's it going, Real Study viewers? I'm Sean, and I'm back with this week's pre-review. You know those movies that are, we're going to get overshadowed because they released on the same weekend as a huge blockbuster? Well, that's the feel I'm getting from Nightmare Alley. This Guillermo del Toro directed film starring Bradley Cooper, Rooney Mara, and Kate Blanchett looks absolutely awesome. Takes us on a journey of Bradley Cooper playing a carny who is either a medium or a con man. I don't know which. And he gets tied into Kate Blanchett's character, who I believe is a psychiatrist. And this just looks like an amazing film. I hope it doesn't get too overlooked. Why would it get overlooked? Oh, only because it's Spider-Man weekend. Spider-Man No Way Home. I feel like we've been talking about this movie for years. Literal years. It could quite possibly be years that we've been talking about this movie. This will change the Marvel Cinematic Universe in ways that I don't think people are ready for as we finally explore the multiverse. We're going to bring in a whole new cast of characters and possibly some more spider people. I cannot wait. This movie is full of everybody has hopes and dreams for this. I hope we haven't built it up too much that people feel let down. I'm just excited for the story that we're gonna get. I cannot wait to watch Spider-Man No Way Home. I'll see it Sunday at 11:30. Moving on to streaming, Disney Plus is finally going to bring us Ron's Gone Wrong. I actually covered this film back when it was coming to theaters, and now it's coming to Disney Plus. It is the story of how in the future, surprise, surprise, everybody has their own robot who posts on social media for them. Only, I believe, one little boy gets one that isn't just quite right. This looks like a great film, and I can't wait to watch it. It seems like it's been far too long, but Netflix is finally going to bring us Witcher Season 2, and I cannot wait for this. I love the fact that in between the seasons, we heard that there were going to be character changes made, and Henry Cavill actually stood up to the production crew and said, "Look, I'm not going to do this unless it follows the books," which the books are incredible. So I love the fact that they're following the books. I've played all the games. I've read several of the books. I cannot wait to see where season 2 takes us because y'all watch out. Siri is awesome. You're not going to be disappointed. Also coming to limited theater release, but coming to Apple TV Plus, we have Swan Song. This is starring Marshala Ali, and let me tell you, it looks absolutely I don't know what to say. It's set in the not too distant future where a man who is terminally ill basically has the choice to create a perfect clone of himself that is fully healthy, that can go and live with his family as if nothing happened while he is left to pass away from this terminal illness. Wow, this trailer looks incredible. I'm pulled into this movie already. Cannot wait to watch this one. As soon as it's on video on demand, I'm gonna have to get it. Thanks for watching, Real Study viewers. I'm Sean, and we'll see y'all next week.
And thanks to Sean for the pre-review. That was a nice and long one. He had a lot to talk about this week, and I think he brings up some good points that maybe we should bring up. Here at the Real Study, we do not believe in spoilers unless you're forewarned in advance. Everybody is going to be seeing Spider-Man No Way Home, but there are a few of us like myself who are stuck not being able to see the movie until it's released on Blu-ray or DVD, digital, which means I'm going to have to hear next week about everybody's reactions about this movie, which is going to drive me further into this hole that I've been digging myself into, which is I don't care about Spider-Man No Way Home. It's nobody's fault. I do want to watch this movie, but I'm at the point where I've reached my fill. If I hear anything else about this movie,
It's Sony's fault.
I'm not going to watch it. Like I'm already at the point where I'm not going to. It's not going to live up to my expectations. It's not, and that's a shame, and that's my problem. But I like to try to find ways to mitigate that, and one of those is that I'm not going to talk about it too much. So after next week, once it comes out, you won't hear me talking about Spider-Man at all, and there will be like a radio silence on the show at least once the movie is released for that reason. So thank you guys for that little PSA I get to put out.
Yep.
Are you guys excited about it though? Because I do want to hear how excited you guys are.
So I'm kind of in the same position. Like again, like if the only way I go to a movie at this point is if I get an early screening, that way I can kind of beat the crowds of people. And I have been looking at like the AMC's and Regals in my area, and they are to max capacity. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be like a terrified person here. I'm just trying to be reasonable. With Omicron and all this stuff that's going on, it's like I would hate for Spider-Man be the part, the reason why we end up having lockdowns and stuff again. So I probably won't see it unless like I'm considering like seeing how many followers on TikTok that I have in the DC area, and maybe doing a private rental of a theater like after a week or so. So that's something that I've thought about.
What's that one, that theater that's in like Alexandria? That's like a night. It's like, isn't it like an Edwards or something? That big one, or is that an AMC?
There's an AMC IMAX.
There's one I used to go to when I lived in Maryland. There's one in Alexandria I used to go to.
Oh yeah, like right off of
Yeah.
like Eisenhower and
Yeah.
Telegraph Road. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
I used to that was like my stomping ground, so I
Yeah.
absolutely
Okay.
know what you're
Cool.
talking about.
Yeah.
And it's really cool when they're I probably would the cool thing is we have the Udavar Hazy Air and Space Museum, and so they have an IMAX theater that in the evenings they
Yeah.
play these movies, and so that is also a good idea of like a way to try to do it if you're not wanting to go to the theaters and be around
Yeah.
tons of people. It's only people specifically for that film, so there are options, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, I have
Lala.
tickets to see it December 16th. And it's pretty much sold out. Like I got one of the last like maybe 6 seats, and I'm pretty sure those seats are gone. But like we got good seats and everything's kind of like spaced out, and I don't know. I'm not worried about it. I'll wear my mask. I'm vaccinated and things like that. So I know there's a new strain going around, but I wanted to see this movie in theaters, so I bought a ticket. So I can get a theater.
See, I'm about to invest in a 70 or 80 inch TV just so I can stop dealing with not being able to see things on a decent sized screen.
I respect that.
Because right now, I'll be very honest.
It's a
I
good
watch
way to go.
all my movies on a high def tablet. Now, it's a beautiful picture, and I can put in earbuds and get beautiful sound. It's still just not the same. And I know that. But that's where I'm at. And so as much as people are like, oh, you don't get to enjoy I'm like, I can still pull as much as I need from a film, honestly, from viewing it on a small screen. The only thing I'm missing is that theater experience, but I haven't done that in years. So like, honestly, I'm not really missing that much. I wasn't going to the theater all the time before the pandemic. I was going occasionally.
I was like
pretty much a Marvel movie would
too.
draw me, or a Star Wars movie would draw me.
Yeah.
Mostly just because it was easy for me to just buy voodoos, like just.
I respect it.
For me.
And usually I wake up on my birthday and go straight to the movies. Like I'll wake up as early as the first movie that I want to see starts.
That's cool.
And I will go see how many movies I can see back to back to back on my birthday, and then take myself out to eat and then go back home.
Treat yourself, right? It's cool.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I like it. That being said, Brian, you didn't give us are you excited about No Way Home?
I once upon a time I was, but it's just been such saturation with this. It's just like it's almost like I have to see it now. It's like an obligation in a way. I'm still excited. I've tried to like avoid as much as possible. I feel like I'm gonna be in the theater when we do see Toby and Andrew. I'm gonna be like, oh, I did not see this coming.
Everybody collectively in the theater will go, gas.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Like, it's been like showed that they're in there. Like somebody posted I saw a video where somebody put their names in the credits when they listed it online. Like people's been I'm just like, who gets fired today?
That's the stuff. Okay,
it's just so much. Yeah, it's just too much.
I know I'm on TikTok. I know that it's my responsibility to filter my own feed. I get that.
Yeah,
I do understand that, and I do swipe. But when I start on a swipe and I hear Spider-Man,
right,
Spider-Man, and then I hear the Thirst Trap song that won't shut up right now. Like I can't avoid that either. It's a ring light or it's Spider-Man right now. I'm like, what am I on TikTok for? Ring lights and Spider-Man.
Oh,
that's
Mr.
all I'm on.
Marvelite.
Anyway.
Yeah.
By the way,
I still don't do mine.
Your Thirst Trap was beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, but actually, I will. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, your Thirst Trap was delicious.
Oh yes,
it was delicious.
Yes, that Red Bull was fantastic. But honestly, like that's part of the reason why if you look at what I'll do some stuff about Spider-Man, but I feel like it's being oversaturated by so many other things. Like there is so much of Marvel to talk about, especially with the Hawkeye series out right now, that we're doing an injustice to the stuff that's currently out. And it's like almost been at the point of where it's like, okay, people were trying to complain because Hawkeye is like the most underperforming debut for a Disney Plus Marvel series, and we're talking about the first year of freaking Marvel movie or Marvel shows,
like Marvel shows, exactly. Like
and everybody's talking about how
and what's underperforming mean? What does that mean?
It means that it didn't have as much as WandaVision or Loki, and it's like Falcon Winter Soldier. And honestly, if you think about it, there was a lot of hate post Endgame and even like beginning of this year of people wanting to recast Jeremy Renner because they because of like anytime that there is a custody battle, you have got to take anything that's reported about a celebrity with a grain of salt. Hence the Amber Heard with Johnny Depp thing. And with Jeremy Renner, there was accusations about him partying and using drugs in front of his daughter. But every time you see him, like pictures, whether paparazzi or whatever, he is a doting father. And our celebrities are not. Like, exactly. Celebrities are not meant to be moral compasses for us.
Right.
No.
They're supposed to make good films, and if they happen to be like awesome people like Robert Downey Jr., that is a bonus.
Like, hey,
when
bonus.
When you pull up to McDonald's to get your Big Mac, do you give a flying F if the drive-through person is having an affair? No, you want your burger and you want to get the F out. Just watch the movie, guys. Like,
I mean, sometimes I ask just randomly. It's like, hey, how's your love life right now? Like,
yeah. It's like it's kind of like the whole thing about
small talk. That's how I make small talk.
It's like it's kind of like the whole thing about, like, when we talk about even like people with sexual orientation or sexual preferences. Right. That's none of our business. Keep shut up. It's don't go into other people's bedrooms and then be appalled because they're not doing what you're doing in yours.
Exactly.
So it's like a big thing of like we're too nosy of a society that we have to know these things. And I guess I get it. The gossip columns, and honestly, the thing that, like, with my grandmother, and you guys probably have, like, with older family members, like, I remember going into the grocery store, and the one request my grandmother would make of me was to go to the tabloids and get tabloids for her. And I would literally grab the tabloids off the thing, and I would just talk about, I cannot believe she makes me get these things for her, because it just drove me nuts that she believed that there was a bad boy in Missouri, or
bad boy, man.
all this. And then it was talking about, like, how Rosie O'Donnell, is secretly thin, or stuff like this. And it's like, do I really care? And why does somebody else care about something? It's because their lives are so boring. And I know I'm sounding preachy, but it's like, just let people be. And there was a lot of hate for, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. And so it makes sense that there would be, people are warming up to it. But of course, now everybody loves, Kate Bishop. Haley Steinfeld is blowing it up. People are now empathizing with Clint Barton now, because we're seeing more of a, there was an idea of giving Clint more screen time.
We got Lala plugging her ears there.
Oh, Lala. You're not watching Hawkeye?
I'm not going to tell you any spoilers.
Not right now.
I'm not telling you any spoilers.
Man. I was like, no, we got to be careful here. Okay.
I'm just saying, like, you really do empathize for Clint Barton and for, what he's gone through in the last, 10 plus years as a hero. And he's fleshed out more, I think, in the series than in anything that we've seen him in the movies. And we've only got these small glimpses. And so for people to hate on that, or even to try to make things negative, I get it. Spider-Man is coming out, but let's just focus on what's out now.
Wild the hate, bro.
Well, also all these other great films that are coming out. Like, that's why I've been talking about The Matrix so much on my page. Like, I'm trying to, like,
I am so excited about that, and it's like,
oh man, me too.
So I wanted to ask you guys, and while we're on the show, and tonight's show is going kind of off the rails here, but that's fine. We could literally let 8-Bit Christmas sit till next week, because we're going to do Christmas movies anyway, but I don't want to do that to Marvelite and have that be his, like, automatic pick. Right. So we could still hit it here in 15 minutes. But the question,
for sure,
oh god, I lost what I was going to say. Oh,
you might want to make 8-Bit Christmas my automatic pick for next week, because if you let me pick something for next week, it's going to be Die Hard.
Okay, 8-Bit Christmas it is. 8-Bit Christmas it is. That being said, I had a point that I was going to try to make, and it's just...
Oh, sorry.
No. The Matrix. Thank you. Somebody said it.
Right.
So we are going to have The Matrix. It's been listed on our poster wall for weeks and weeks now that we are going to review it. But my question to you guys is, and I would love to hear what the chat has to say on this as well, is do you think we should just review the series?
Oh.
I don't know. I feel like we really need to give this new Matrix film, like, its own. It'd be great to do that as a thing, but I almost feel like...
I did just see the original in IMAX, which was freaking phenomenal. Like, it's crazy how it's like 20 years old and it still holds up. I mean, yeah,
so good.
What
we could do is we could dedicate an hour, the second hour of the show, to the new movie, but spend the first hour talking about everything, how we feel about the original films and leading up. And that way we don't have to spend too much time on each film, and we just kind of keep that original trilogy and the Animatrix kind of open to talk about leading into a new film.
But if we're also going to reference the Animatrix, but you also remember the video game that came out, because
I was just going to say the video game
that was crucial to the storyline as well.
Yeah.
One that actually is crucial to the story, and the two other ones that are just great.
Because if you don't know, I think it was called Matrix Reloaded was the second movie, right?
Right. So there's Enter the Matrix,
Yeah.
which is
Enter the Matrix was the
game.
one that
Right.
led into Reloaded.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
then there's
yeah.
Neo, the Path of the One.
Mhm.
And then there's the Matrix online role playing game,
Right.
which is where we get story, the MMO. Exactly.
Mhm.
So I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. It doesn't mean we have to. We can find plenty of other movies. There are literally thousands of movies we can review and thousands of movies we haven't seen. So there's no reason why we couldn't just do that movie and a few others.
I mean, we could totally just because there's so. I mean, there's literally college courses about Matrix and philosophy. Like we could have a whole show just about
Yep.
all the metaphor that's in there, all the things that they're trying to say, all the philosophies behind the Matrix,
All
and
the things,
you know,
huh?
yeah, all the
Yeah.
All the things,
right,
all the Matrix
all
things.
all the Matrix things.
I love
And
it.
it's funny though,
Actually-
because if you really think about it, like the Matrix took so much out of the Wachowskis, like it
Right.
had to have been taxing. And then of course it was
Yeah.
what was the next thing that they made, which was Speed Racer. And it's like, okay, it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense that they would go into that because I think they were so creatively spent from the Matrix
Yeah, for sure.
like saga that it just took everything out of them.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Which I still like
agree.
Speed Racer.
You will find me as the first person to be just a Wachowski stan. Like my page on TikTok might as well be a Wachowski. Well, thank you, Mr. Marvelite. You didn't have to do that. That was really
No,
awesome of you.
No, Black Girl Marvel just gifted the sub for me.
Yeah.
Oh, she gifted. Sorry, I saw two different names and I'm not used to this. So, Black Girl Marvel, thank you very much
Thank
for the subscription
you.
to Mr. Marvelite, to The Real Study. That was very cool of you. It does fix itself, Jack of Spades. You know, we're a coast to coast national show with a small budget. We're gonna have some issues. We're gonna roll with it. But I do appreciate you pointing that out in case I could have fixed it. Not that I could have. So we'll go ahead and say 8-Bit Christmas next week. We've got another 15 minutes. Why don't we? Oh, we can't talk about Hawkeye. Never mind. Lala isn't caught up, so we can't talk about Hawkeye. I was so excited to talk about it too because all 4 of these episodes have been really good.
Yeah. That's been fun.
The most I want to say is, oh man, bro.
There's a show called Hawkeye out. There you go.
Oh,
That's it.
gotta watch it.
Yeah.
Go watch
Jeremy
it.
Renner's in it.
Jeremy Renner, yeah. What's funny, we've talked about a couple of Pitch Perfect things going on. Haley Steinfeld was in Pitch Perfect 2 and 3. So
And 3, yeah.
She
that was my first
she's an excellent singer. Yeah. So you didn't see True Grit before?
I have not seen True Grit.
Really?
Oh, it's a great
man,
film.
Do you know why,
right?
right?
Grit.
Oh.
Because you hate cinema? I don't know
Westerns.
why.
I hate westerns. I don't like westerns.
Oh,
I
westerns.
can't
Oh,
stand
they're
westerns.
so good.
You hate
That's
It
fine,
is
but
so
you gotta
good.
find. You gotta like. If people want to watch a western,
It is
I gotta
not
have a
the
bunch of
typical
people suggest
cinema.
it. I bet. I'm
That is
sure.
Coen
so
Brothers.
It
I
is
know.
the
Deacon.
rambling of like a demented old bounty hunter, basically.
And yeah.
And
I get
this girl who's trying to keep him focused while he's on the sauce.
Right.
I mean, that's basically all it is. And
There's
it's
no
so
reason I
much
shouldn't
fun.
see it.
Good.
It's Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
It's Jeff Bridges. It's Matt Damon. It's Haley Steinfeld.
Mhm.
The
Well,
only
I
thing
think
that's
Deacon
stopping
shot
me
it.
is
I
that
mean,
it's
yeah.
literally a remake of a John Wayne film, and I have never in my life seen one John Wayne film on purpose. I won't watch one. You wouldn't get
All
me
the
to
more
watch
reason
one.
to see this then.
Yeah,
So that
because
I
you
get
haven't
to
seen
see the
that.
good story, but without his crappy
Exactly.
version.
exactly.
Right.
Did you watch Hateful Eight?
Yes, I did. It's Tarantino,
Okay.
like so. It was kind of an automatic on my list.
Yeah.
Right.
So think of it not be like in genre, but not in genre. It's definitely.
Yeah.
So it's the
It doesn't-
Coen's Western.
Oh, and
That's a good way
the
to put it.
what's his name? Matt Damon. Matt
Yeah.
Damon's character cracks
Yeah,
me
yeah.
up in that film. Like he is
Uh-huh.
like, yes, it is great.
Okay,
Yeah.
you
Are
guys
we
have
not
convinced
forget
me.
he's in it.
Are we
Oh,
not
what?
getting to 8-Bit Christmas?
Oh, I guess you didn't hear it. So we're gonna do 8-Bit
I didn't
Christmas
hear
as
it.
Marvelite's pick next week for a Christmas movie.
Oh, okay. I
Because
didn't hear that at all.
He was gonna
It'll be
pick
part of
Die
our
Hard
Christmas
otherwise,
films.
and so we're gonna skip past that.
I love the
Um,
thread. I love the thread.
Yeah.
It's a solid thread.
And we're just kind of chatting film. We don't get to ever really do this on the
Oh,
show. We don't
okay.
just get to like.
I've
chat.
already said we should have a
So-
show where we just chat. There's no movies we're reviewing. We should just talk.
That's true.
There, now you can't avoid it.
So yes,
There you
Jack of
go.
Spades. Westerns to me are.
Nice.
It's for an era that's about 15 years, and yet for some reason it's a whole genre of film. The Western takes place in such a small period of
Well, that's
of
because
American
they
history.
did so many of them during that time that's why we didn't see so many of them for so long, because it was just they just saturated the market with westerns during that time. that
Mhm.
Hollywood's just like, all right, we're not doing westerns for a long time, and they would just trickle one here out,
Same thing with monster
But
movies. There was a reason we
yeah,
didn't have monster
oh yeah,
movies
yeah,
all through the 80s and
uh-huh,
90s and
I
even
think it's because
2000s
they did them
because
so much.
they overdid
yeah,
them. Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Same thing with Universal movie monsters. They keep
Mhm.
trying to bring them back, but I don't think we've been
Yeah.
saturated still to this point with them, so we're not ready to
Well,
move
it's
to another Universal movie monster franchise.
it's the reason why people are thinking that there's only a shelf life for like for comic book or superhero movies
Yeah.
that at some point people are just going to get tired of. And I think the important thing is, like, if you look at like the DC films, and I'm not saying that I don't like the DC films, they kind of keep to this chemistry that you do get tired of after a while. Whereas like with Marvel, they at least kind of change the genre up a little bit, but it's still, there are people that will face fatigue.
Right.
It's kind of like the whole zombie thing for like The Walking Dead and everything.
Oh man.
I love
Yeah.
that film, and I was a diehard, for the show. And then after, I think it was like season 6 or 7, I stopped paying attention. So
hmm
It became very, very repetitive and
yeah.
unpredictable.
Also, when they also
Yeah,
deviated from the comic books, it bothered me.
I didn't
Like,
mind
really
that. I
deviated.
don't mind comic books being a little different because I want a nice fresh take. And I had read all the comics before the show started. So like
Mhm.
when I walked into it, I was like, oh, neat Shane. Okay, different. And like it threw me for a loop. So I don't mind slight
Yeah.
changes. That's why I like the MCU, because if you've read the comics, you think Mephisto should have been here already. And obviously he's not. So you know,
Have you heard people talk about the watch and Hawkeye joking that it's Mephisto's?
oh,
Sorry. It's a watch. Like
there's a watch in the show. It's just a watch.
there's a watch in the show. That's
Yeah,
it.
there's a
Yeah,
watch.
yeah.
It's a
But
watch.
it's just a joke. It's not an actual thing. It's not Mephisto's.
No spoilers.
People are joking because Mephisto, since WandaVision, people wanted Mephisto, so people are just keeping the Mephisto joke going
Yeah.
with this show too.
You know what I miss
Yeah.
about the Marvel shows from this year more than anything is Alligator Loki, and I want that song to be playing 24/7.
Yeah,
I loved that week. That was like my favorite week of Marvel this year because it was just
it
so
was really
fun,
good.
and it was just
Yeah,
a fun
yeah.
week. It's almost like this is what it's been like being on TikTok and on the Real Study, is that it's more like captured moments than I don't
Mhm.
know. It's interesting.
It's like trends. It's like you ride the trend, and then
Oh yeah,
you kind of miss it when it's gone. And it's like going back and thinking about like even the trends from like last year and then going into this year. It's like things are so different now.
yeah. I feel like too that it's like influencing, maybe not fully influencing, but it is kind of informing part of like how my like viewing experience is, because of the experience I'm having with like all of you and everyone in the chat and just people on TikTok. So it's like totally informing how I'm like experiencing a whole like movie or a series, because I feel like it's almost amplifying in a way, in a good way, in
No,
my
I
Yeah.
mind.
like that.
Like, yeah,
No, that makes sense.
because like especially with
Um,
Loki, like people were just like going crazy for Loki and could not stop talking about Loki and all the great theories that everyone was having
And
and talking about. Like,
I was disappointed at Loki. I was very
oh
disappointed.
no, I
Very
love Loki.
see,
Visually, I would say that visually
Oh
Loki is
man,
the
no,
best show.
everything for me.
Visually, the colors, the different worlds, the lighting, like visually, Loki is like beautiful. Story wise, it was okay, but the way that they nerfed
Mm,
Loki to support other characters throughout the show, I just wasn't a fan of. Like they rushed his character, like they killed him in Endgame, and then brought us
spoilers.
back to the Loki that we. Sorry, spoiler.
At
They
this
killed him.
point, really?
I'm
They
kidding.
I
yeah,
know, right?
they killed him in Endgame. Then to bring him, then brought us the Loki that we all fell in love with, like the crazy, orphaned, Loki. To only rush his progress by showing him images that didn't exactly happen to him, to get him to kind of be muted in a way. I just wasn't a fan of it. I felt like he was way more adept at a lot of things than a lot of people in that world, but got bested by a lot of people.
I think
I
His
just didn't like it.
what was interesting for me was the fact that like that second to last episode was the most like fulfilling in the sense of, he could change. And I think the whole idea was people keep having this concept that you're stuck in this path, you can't change who you are. Loki through the entire series had this awakening that first he was vulnerable enough to tell Mobius that he doesn't like hurting people, that he does this because he's the one that's afraid and he's the one that has fear. and he's the one grasping for power. And then you see that moment where he's still playing his tricks through the next couple episodes, to the point of where he sees the Sylvie character as a antagonist, but then the more he gets to know her, the more he becomes akin to her. And the I believe that Nexus moment when they had on that planet right before they died was not them falling in love. It was the Nexus. It was a moment where Loki, just like Sylvie, because everybody said, well, her being a female was, I had this whole theory, but it was Loki realizing he's not the villain of the story, that he can be something different. And
Well,
if she can be something different, he could be something different.
Based upon what Lala just said, the way that they describe the Loki that we know from the MCU that we know, his whole purpose in existence is to guide other people's life. Well, why
Right.
is this Loki any different? He also is there to guide to guide Sylvie, to guide, it just.
But I feel like Sylvie was already who she was. She didn't change.
Right. Yeah.
He was the one that was more being changed by her, because he saw in her the ability that, at an early age, she was like looking for good things. She was playing with the Valkyrie toy, with the idea of imagining herself being a hero. That was something that Loki did not do in the normal MCU timeline. And so when he came to the conclusion that he could be different, and I think that was the thing that hurt him the most of that last episode, when they were with the one who was above all, or the He Who Remains. He wanted to stop and think of the greater good and consider that maybe they were wrong. She refused to do it, and all she saw was him wanting to grasp for power again. And I think that's where it was like the biggest gut wrench for him, because he really was trying to think, if he's, as bad as he is, he's the better of the versions of himself.
Yeah,
then
that was my kind of
maybe
thing too.
we're wrong for what we're wanting to do, and maybe as much as it hurts us, he's right. And that's something a Loki doesn't do. So
I just feel like it was very rushed. I don't have a problem with him being like a better person, a better Loki. I have no issue with that. I just feel like because these Marvel TV shows are like, I'm gonna give you 6 to 8 episodes. You have to like put a lot in an episode, and I feel like his transformation, because he was literally 2 seconds ago the war criminal Loki that went to New York and destroyed this place, that was still hurt over his father and his brother, and then he gets kidnapped. I mean, not kidnapped, but essentially he got kidnapped. But he gets snatched into this other place, and then immediately changes because he's seen a version of himself go through this. He never physically went
No,
through
but
it. So
I think you're discounting what he goes through while he's at the TVA. Those moments are big for him. Like he loses all control of the Infinity Stones. Like those things.
I get that, but I feel like his character arc was just super quick.
I was gonna say I understand that.
No,
because with Wanda,
I like that he saw like the Infinity Stones and was like, y'all use these as paperweights? Like, is it? I like those moments, but I feel like when they pumped all that past information and showed him all that past information, it changed his character so.
It was future information for him, but
and theoretically,
right? Yeah,
it's a whole different.
No, I agree.
Loki, it'll never happen to him. I like, again, maybe they should have added another episode.
No, with all the other characters we've had TV shows about, Lala, you're totally right. Wanda, we had a lot of backstory. With Sam, we literally got everything leading up into him trying to take the shield and what that meant. We had a ton of movies with backstory for him. With Loki, the backstory doesn't work because this is a different Loki. You're right. The backstory that we have isn't his actual backstory.
Right.
So they do have to cram it in there. So
I mean, that's why it kind of works for me, because it is a different Loki. Because it's like he kind of gets this Loki gets to start fresh in a way, and gets to like take this new path that the original Loki wasn't ever gonna take.
So if you consider in the main MCU timeline, the death of Frigga is kind of like the crux for him to, cooperate with Thor again. And it kind of leads, he does his little trickster things. He, banishes his father, he banishes Odin to Earth. And we have these things that he does, but he doesn't do anything overly terrible. He doesn't do anything good. I almost wonder that if in the Loki series, he was vulnerable. He admitted what was going on with him. We see him at a more vulnerable point that we've seen him, other than when Frigga dies. And I almost wonder if his motivation for like going to the Timekeepers, knowing that regardless of what he does, Frigga will always die. That may have been part of his push as to why, he was willing to even cooperate with the TVA, because he thought maybe if he could get with them, stab them in the backs, he could change the timeline for that as well. Because I think he knew what he was going to be, and he knew that he was a failure, and he was accepting that. And it wasn't until you see later on, especially with Sylvie, and then you see with Mobius, where he says, if anyone's ever told you you can't change, they were wrong. And he realized he could actually be fighting for himself as well. I don't know. I'm glad we're getting a season 2, because I think there's a lot more to explore with the characters.
Spoilers.
Totally. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's spoilers.
I don't know.
I think everybody that's in our chat has seen it, but still.
I just didn't want it to be as rushed as it just felt very rushed. It didn't feel like, because like I said in the comments, I felt like it was forced upon him to essentially give us a version of the in-game Loki that they killed. Because essentially this Loki could easily be like the in-game Loki. He sacrificed himself. He didn't see himself as a villain. Like, he put himself on the line, which is what Loki has never done. But in the show, he puts himself on the line continuously for TVA agents, for Mobius, for Sylvie. So I felt like
as the show progresses, but we don't see him do that.
But I felt like I felt like if Loki in Infinity War is what I meant to say. If Loki in Infinity War didn't die, I felt like that would have become
spoilers.
The version that we see in the TV show would have been him.
Right.
I feel like the version we see in the TV show would have been him. So I felt like they were trying to get that Loki back, essentially, and that's why they showed his past and his multiversal past and all these things. So I just didn't like how rushed it was.
Well, I really feel like the TVA just doesn't like Lokis in general. I think there's a discrimination on the Lokis. Yeah, you're just a tool. You're a means to an end.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah,
they may have taken Captain Carter in there for all we know, and they didn't seem to be manhandling her quite in the same way they did Loki. So I think it is like a grudge against Loki's.
And I don't care how bad the show would have been, but that whole thing, are you a robot? Like, that was my favorite part of that entire episode.
All right.
It's like, am I a robot?
Well, how would I know if I'm a robot? Well, you might know until you step in.
Yeah,
pretty good stuff. The first couple episodes of TVA were great, and I think Loki is like great in the beginning, great in the end, kind of in the middle. But I think that's TV shows as a rule. I think that's why I don't like them. They're always in the middle. That being said, it is 9:00. We are supposed to end this show at 9:00, and because I have my wife out there with some children, I definitely want to go out there and give her a hand. Say what?
I said, or 12:00, whatever coast you're on.
Yeah, it's another day for us.
I always forget about the fact that you guys are moving into Monday at this point, while Brian and I are still sitting over here on the West Coast.
Yeah, y'all are living in the past.
Hey, the way our show is set up, we're kind of like West Coast, East Coast. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, they're all on the East Coast over there, by the way. This is West Coast, just so you guys know. That being said, we are going to raid tonight. So this has been episode 12 of the study, and we just got raided by Verified Reckless. 10 people coming in on the raid.
Whoa.
Thank you very much for that. You guys are rating us quite literally. We got a follow. What's up, Danger? Thank you for the follow. We are quite literally ending our show right now, but we'll hang out for another minute while we get rated.
Yeah, I like that name.
Another follow from Brother the Darkness 84. Thank you for that. We are the Real Study. I'm Mr. Snidbits. That is Black Girl Marvel. Below me here is All the Movie Things, and Catty Corner over there is Mr. Marvelite. We are reviewers. Thank you for the follow. Yella, I think that's how I would say that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the follow there as well. We do movie reviews. We do 3 movies every week. Tonight here, I'll actually switch us over. This is unique. We did The Brass Teapot, Mr. Right, and we were going to do 8-Bit Christmas, but we're holding that off until next week for our Christmas show. But we do movies every week.
Good evening and welcome.
Place. Okay, wow, that was weird. My buttons just got all weird. I'm all thrown off, but we do these movie reviews every week if you guys want to come check us out. But right now we are actually about to raid out to another place. If you guys want to ride along, we're about to do that. That being said, this is The Real Study. You guys have a great evening.
Have a great week, all. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Hopefully hopefully you guys come
And-
back and see us on the show. Full show.
Absolutely. We'll be here next Sunday. Next Sunday will be Christmas. So if you love Christmas movies, tune in. We'll have our favorite Christmas movies and 8-Bit Christmas to review. And that was not a slight against the film. All right.
Man,
here
now I
we go.
really want to do Die Hard.
No. Good night, guys.
Bye, Betsy.